If you listen to the show for any amount of time, you know that I do have a merch store or two, and I don't generally push my merch because I don't feel comfortable hitting you guys up for money. But if you're listening to me on anything resembling a regular basis, you probably laugh at the same things I do. You probably think a lot of the same things I do. So why don't you go check out horribledesigns.com. They have assorted merchandise with funny comments on it, funny t-shirts, funny mouse pads, funny coffee cups, and then some stuff that maybe not necessarily so funny, but is definitely relevant, whether it's a social opinion, an economic opinion, a stance on, things like veganism, or whether or not you need essential oils in your life. So, yeah, anyway, that's my little plug. I have some of their shirts. They're comfortable. They're cool. I like them. HorribleDesigns.com. Go check it out. The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I talk about things that I feel need talking about, and sometimes they're not getting the attention they deserve. And your feelings, they're not under consideration. So it's been another week. The world is still on the skids, and unfortunately the leaders in this country don't know how to steer into a skid. It's just getting worse. The media is still doing what they do, making problems into something bigger than they should be. A lot of terrible shit's been going on. A lot of conversations are happening that really, honestly and truly disappoint me. On some social media posts I've had. Now, let's start with the big stuff. Let's see. Gas has gone through the roof. No surprise there. Instead of doing anything to alleviate problems in this country, the ruling parties, the leftists, the Democrats, however you want to look at it, the president, in a real ridiculous move, has done nothing but exasperate and basically proven that to the people running this country, America is not a priority. And to my listeners outside of the United States, I apologize. I'm going to be a little ranty about this shit again, because this is where I live and these are where my problems are. So, there's a baby formula shortage due to multiple reasons, production issues, yada, yada, yada. And basically, we're just being told to deal with it. And at the same time, pictures surface of all the detention facilities for the illegal immigrants that are being detained by the federal government that are receiving pallets of infant formula. Meanwhile, the American people can't feed their kids, and they're having to ration and find alternatives. And people that are not U.S. citizens, do not contribute to the gross domestic product in this country, are being detained because they tried to come into the country illegally, are being paid for to get things that U.S. citizens can't get their hands on. I have a problem with this. If you do not have a problem with this, then you shouldn't be listening to me, or you need to rethink the way you look at life, because you can't fix the world at all, if we're being realistic, but you can't change the world until your own house is in order. It works on a micro level in interpersonal relationships. You can't go around fixing the town, the neighbor, the community, whatever, if your own house is all fucked up. If you don't have a decent life at home first, you're not in any kind of position to help anybody. All you're going to do is, it's like a couple of kids outside playing after a rainstorm in a puddle. They take a stick, they stir the puddle around, and they think they're making a difference, but it's just as big of a mess as before they started, if not worse. So that's kind of what I equate the leadership in this country to at this point. It's a bunch of kids with a stick stirring around a mud puddle trying to make a big deal out of what they're doing, and they're not actually accomplishing a fucking thing. Because they don't prioritize getting shit fixed here first. And honestly, part of me is really starting to say this is not accidental. This is a deliberate mismanagement of shit. Because on top of the fact that, American families that need to feed their babies infant formula, because not everybody can breastfeed. That's the first thing that pisses me off. got all these assholes ranting and raving about, oh, well, breastfeed your kids. It's better for you. Some people physically can't do it. Some mothers don't produce enough milk. Some mothers get duct infections or get different issues where they cannot feed their children. And what are we going to do in the case of fathers that have custody of their babies for whatever reason? Maybe mom's a meth head. Maybe mom is an unfit mother for whatever reason, and the father has custody. No matter how hard he sticks a titty in that kid's mouth, there's not going to be anything coming out of it. And no matter how hard you want to push that gender's not a thing, it kind of comes to play in these matters. And then to compound that, you've got the magnanimous government of the United States sending another $40 billion in aid to the Ukraine. Now, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I feel terrible that there's problems going on over there. However, it's none of our fucking business because we have our own problems that are being neglected on behalf of a lot of, virtue signaling and banner waving, saying, oh, look, we're doing this to help them. And honestly, the reason they're in this position in the first place is the United States' fault. That is an acknowledged thing. They disarmed their nuclear capabilities because we told them we would defend them. Problem being that they shouldn't have told them that. We can't defend them. They are not NATO allies. If we get involved in this, that is an act of war against Russia, and it is going to lead to World War III. It's not a good thing on any respects. But at the end of the day, massive inflation in this country, shortages of necessary things for infants in this country, and they send another $40 billion of our money. It's not their money. It's not the government's money. It's money they take from United States citizens. And without saying beyond the standard taxation is theft, because it really is, it's not like they give you an option. They say they're going to take it, and they take it. You're being strong-arm robbed. And to everybody who whines, well, what about the roads, and what about this, and what about that? This country had an infrastructure way before they had a payroll tax. And we pay taxes on literally everything, so it's not like they're taxing you once. They tax your payroll taxes. You pay sales taxes on everything you buy. If you own land, you pay property taxes every year. You never actually get to say, this is my land, because every year the government comes along and says, no, you got to pay me for the right to have that land. Otherwise, it's not yours anymore. So, realistically, these greedy, inefficient, worthless shit stains, they don't have a problem budgeting or spending money because it's not theirs. It doesn't hurt them to give it up because they just take more from us. And I have a problem with that. I don't think we should be policing the world. I don't think the rest of the world's problems are our problems. We have enough of our own fucking problems. And I don't know why I'm acting like this surprises me because I can't even say an actual statement from the president because say what you will about the fucking Cheeto, you know that motherfucker was running his own tweets because they read like they came straight from his angry ass. The problem with the current sitting president sending out tweets and any kind of social media posting is they're coherent. So you know he's not writing them. The man is senile. The only thing that's keeping me from screaming this motherfucker needs to go, other than the fact that motherfucker needs to go, is what will replace him is worse. I need him to make it 4 years, get voted the fuck out of office, and then go drop dead somewhere. Not before. Make it to the end of your term, then you can go somewhere. And never come back if there's any kind of decency in the world. You will disappear and you will take that cackling fucking whore with you and it'll be done. But I digress. So, on top of obviously not giving a shit about the economic issues here at home, inflation bad, they can keep saying that, but they don't understand how inflation works apparently because they keep wanting to add debt to the national debt. They want to keep increasing government spending, but they seem to think that the solution for the current inflation is, well, we need to tax the rich more. So basically what they're saying is we've proven to be completely incompetent with all the money we've already taken from the American population. You need to give us more so we can fix the mess we created. So this post comes out under the president's Twitter account, and basically just shows a complete lack of understanding of how finance works. And, again, like I said, I don't think Sleepy Joe actually knows how to work a smartphone, so I don't think the tweet came from him. I'm sure it came from the White House press secretary or whatever. And, so that's a lovely state of affairs, is they're basically showing their own fucking ignorance. And most people don't question it. Most people are just, they're right. Because the people they pander to, the people that they manipulate and control, don't understand how fucking finance works either. They don't understand how money works. And it's not accidental. The current modern education system fails the population so much. That's why I support anybody that can homeschool should homeschool, because you're going to probably do a better job than the system, because the system is not set up to create critical thinkers. It's not set up to create people who are capable of understanding how fucked they actually are and how bad they're being treated. It's creating a whole bunch of people that are not only dependent on the system, but think it's a good thing to be dependent on the system. And I'm not just talking about welfare in general. I'm talking about all these assholes who seem to think the government should be controlling every aspect of your life, which is one of the worst fucking ideas ever. That goes completely against why our country was founded in the first place. It was founded on the principles of, you can't take my money and not allow me to have some sort of say in my life. That's what taxation without representation means. And we're getting back to taxation without representation. The Founding Fathers would not be tolerating this shit. And I'm not, necessarily one of those people that's constantly like, we should be get back to... I believe that people should be personally responsible for their lives. I believe that people should they are entitled to what they work for, what they own. They should be able to own things, not have the government come along and say, well, if you don't give me a little bit of that, you don't get it. The government doesn't work for your shit. You work for your shit. So realistically, they shouldn't be taking it. They shouldn't be telling you how to deal with your life. And they've proven time and time and time again how incompetent they actually fucking are. It goes back to, like I talked about last week with the whole Roe versus Wade thing. Do I support using abortion as birth control? No, I don't. Do I believe that it should be outlawed? No, I don't. I think elective abortions are not a good thing. You should not be able to just say, well, I don't feel like having a kid right now and I'm in my third trimester, but goddammit, I just made up my mind. I think that's, at that point, if the fetus is viable beyond a certain point, I don't think you should be able to terminate it without a just reason. The whole my body, my choice thing. First off, everybody that says that in defense of abortion doesn't really mean it, because they only believe it in the context of what they want. Unless you're somebody like me who says, no, my body, my choice is universal. You shouldn't be able to force somebody to not be able to get a medical procedure if they want to, and you should not be able to force somebody to have a medical procedure if they don't want to. That's how bodily autonomy works. I believe in it. But I harped on that all last week. I'm not going to harp on it again. But it is still relevant. And honestly, the leaked Supreme Court documents just fuel fire. They cause more division. This shit is not being done accidentally. It's not being done like, oops, now there's a leak. And now, granted, the timing and I do find it kind of suspicious that the first leak in the history of Supreme Court opinion papers happens immediately after they put a new woke-ass judge on the Supreme Court. Yeah, what a coincidence. They got this new hard left-leaning judge who can't, I should say won't say what a woman is. All of a sudden, a paper related to women's rights gets leaked, and it's a huge fight. And yeah, the timing is sus. It's very much... I don't think it was coincidental, to say the least. But I do agree with this hearing. I don't think the federal government has the position to regulate on birth control, on abortions, on any of that shit. And I don't know why people would want that, because anytime you put a club that heavy in the hands of the federal government, A, they don't like to give it up, and B, if the prevailing winds change, it's just as easily to club. People support it when it's in favor of what they want. thinking about the consequences of when the popular opinion swings, and all of a sudden it's no longer what you want, but that huge club is still in the hands of the government. And like I said in the last episode, I am in favor of anything that strips power away from the federal government. The federal government is inept. It is a bunch of corrupt, worthless, just shambling assholes. It has strayed so far from what it was intended to be that it is completely ineffectual and fucking useless. And they're just running shit into the ground. And again, I keep finding myself straying towards all these conspiracy theories because how do you like it? They're starting to play out. We've got people talking about giving the WHO all these powers over all these other countries. They get to determine what constitutes pandemics and what constitutes health crises. These are not American citizens. They are not people that were voted for by this country. The United States should not be yielding a single fucking thing to this organization. But they're about to do it. They're about to literally go against the founding principles of this country and hand over power to a foreign body to have ultimate authority over the population of this country. That's not that is a direct violation. That's fucking treason. Without going into, dragging out a bunch of legal rhetoric and all this other shit, that's what it is. Handing over authority over the citizens of this country to a foreign power is treason. Every fucking politician who's on board with this shit is guilty of treason and is subject to the penalties thereof. And in this country, the laws on the books for treason are still execution. Now, I'm not saying that we should be dragging them out and stringing them up. Firing squads are still efficient. The problem with these laws and the fact that all these assholes are guilty of committing treason against the United States is the people responsible for enforcing it, well, in a certain extent, are convinced that they still answer to those assholes, regardless of the fact that they are guilty of treason and subsequently, according to the documents that founded this country, have lost their right to have any authority over the governing bodies of this country. But they realistically, it hasn't passed yet, so we can't say they've actually committed treason, although I'm sure a lot of them have in one way, shape, or form, whether it be in the form of kickbacks or, just leaking information but I don't think it's necessarily always to foreign powers. I'm sure there's a lot of domestic treason going on too. Taking bribes, taking kickbacks, taking money from, to vote a certain way or to throw things in the favor of certain corporate interests. There's all kinds of shady shit that just should realistically have you cheering every time they strip a piece of power away from the federal government. The federal government has gotten to be this bloated behemoth of a fucking thing, and it's horrible. And it's pointless. And it's useless. I mean, there was a time where it served a higher purpose, but that time has gone the way of corruption. I mean, these miserable fucks give themselves a raise every year when they write a new budget. They are terrible at their fucking jobs. They should be receiving demotions. If they were out in the real world, instead of sucking off of people like the parasites that they are, they would either be fired or at least not get a raise. They would be suffering like the rest of us when inflation makes their money worth less, but instead, they just give themselves a little bit more to cover that. They're not hurting. They're not in any bad way. We pay for all of their needs, and we pay their salaries, and they're still corrupt, and they're still lying, and they're still useless. And they use the media to keep up pushing all these stupid fucking divisions. They've got us at each other's throats over dumb shit that shouldn't be an issue. And instead of, coming together and talking things out like grown-ups, they fan the flames of division, and they keep pushing. So we keep fighting over shit that at this point really shouldn't be relevant anymore, regardless of how anybody feels about it. And all these people, screaming about institutional racism or institutional sexism or institutional, discrimination based on gender identity or whatever other fucking horse shit that they're pushing. They keep pushing us into fighting over things like racism or genderism or any kind of religious bigotry, anything that really should be a fucking footnote when it comes to how we do things in this country, because it keeps us from looking at what is actually going on, which is a class war where the middle class is being ground back into the lower class when we have this elite cadre that doesn't have to worry about things because they're in a position of we control the purse strings, we control what we get, we take what you earn, and we do it by threat of force. They say you're going to go to jail because you didn't pay your taxes. Well, fuck you. You don't deserve my money. I work hard for everything I have. I shouldn't be handing it over to a bunch of assholes who I don't approve of their job. We're supposed to be their bosses, not their fucking slaves. And if enough of us could get past all this petty shit, we could see that. And then maybe we could, turn our rage and our ire where it should be. And maybe get some changes done in this world. Get things the way back to it was meant to be. Build a better life for everybody. We can't build a better world when we're busy trying to tear each other down because we can't agree on stupid, petty shit. Why can't we all just agree that if what you're doing doesn't hurt anybody and it doesn't affect me directly, I don't fucking care. Just let people live their own lives. Mind your fucking business. But that's too much to ask. And if you want a prime example of how fucked up this scenario is, we had another mass shooting, which they're coming about one a month at this point, and it was some stupid ass 18-year-old white kid who somehow, this is all according to the reported stories. I don't know how accurate any of it is, but this kid had already been on people's radar. The FBI has already said they were aware of this person previously, so why the fuck was he out roaming the streets? Oh, well, he went and got counseling. It didn't help. Yeah, he falls into some rabbit hole of that white people are being replaced with black people, and he must strike out against these black people, or some other ridiculous, insane shit. First off, I am totally on board with the idea, because realistically, it's not like people are being replaced. They're not just dragging white people out of their houses and implanting a black family or whatever. But, we want to breed everybody so we're all in a lovely mocha, nice blend. That's a fantastic idea. Let's just get everybody one uniform thing where we can all just go, hey, we're all just fucking people. Let's muddy the waters enough where we're all, just humans, and that's how we view things, and stop worrying about the other shit. But I digress. So this kid drives like 6.5 hours or some shit. I don't know. I don't remember the exact details, and it's late, and I'm tired. This kid drives to fucking Buffalo, New York. Goes to a supermarket in an all black or predominantly black neighborhood, and opens fire. Kills like 10 people. Media blows it fucking up, and they're, oh my God, it's a white supremacist domestic terrorist act. It's not a domestic terrorist act. It's the fucked up actions of one stupid, twisted fucking individual, teenager. Dumb shit kid. Kid left behind a fucking manifesto, basically proclaiming himself to be a left-leaning, state authoritarian. He wanted the state to be absolute, kind of the way the left does. They want the state to control everything. And he said as much in this document he left behind before he went out and started shooting people. He referred to himself as a Nazi. He's very anti-Semitic. Immediately, the media starts trying to paint this kid as some ultra-conservative, right-leaning white kid. Yeah, he's a white kid. Yeah, he fell behind some stupid-ass conspiracy theories about white people being replaced. He thinks the state should be running the country. That immediately removes him from any possibility of being a conservative. But they're pushing the issue. And then this comes kind of back into the thing where I was saying I saw some posts from some people I really expected better from, going off about how this kid's only still alive because he was white, and if he was a black kid shooting up a white neighborhood, he would have caught a bullet, and if he was, a black mass shooter, we wouldn't even be hearing about it on the news. Well, you're half right. If he was a person of color and guilty of a mass shooting, it would not be getting nearly the same level of fucking attention. You know how I know that? Y'all remember the subway shooter in New York last month? It's been literally a month since a black man took a gun and went onto a subway and just randomly opened fire. And he's a professed black supremacist. He thinks all white people need to be taken out. There was a little blurb about it when it happened, and no major media outcry, no rallies, no things, and no dead shooter. That's the part I'm kind of irritated by. All these people that are screaming, well, if he was a black kid, he would have gotten shot for shooting up the grocery store. So something to think about in terms of the current statistics, and they're a little fuzzy because the definitions aren't always super clear. But as of the date, as of today, there's 190 instances of gun violence. They're considering mass shootings. How many of those do you remember hearing about on the news? How many of them do you think got any sort of real coverage? I can't speak to all of them because I haven't looked into all of them other than just pulling up the statistic, but you want to know how many of them were instances of violence that weren't based on racism or anything else stupid? You want to know why you haven't heard about probably 180 of the 190 instances? Yeah, that's not something they want to push. It doesn't fit the narrative. I mean, yeah, the system is fucked up. The system needs to be reworked. And I say that pretty much across the board. But I know a lot of cops. I know a lot of good people that want to go out there and serve the public and protect people from other shitty human beings. They don't see things based on the color of your skin. That is not nearly as prevalent as it was in the past. We have grown as a society. We have gotten better. It is not nearly as prevalent as the fucking media tries to make it out to, because they are invested in making us hate each other. It used to, when I was a kid, there was a saying going around when it came to talking about the news where they would talk about crimes and things like that. And the saying was, if it bleeds, it leads, because that's what got the ratings. That's what got the views. Stories about crimes and violence would hook the viewer and draw them in, and they would get the ratings for that. Now, metrics on television have changed. We've got 24-hour news channels. We've got all these things, and it's still, if it bleeds, it leads. Big disasters, crises, things that draw people in are still what they have to bring you in with. But with the way our society has changed, we have so much online presence now. We have so many alternate resources to get this thing and to get information brought to us, to get whatever view of the story it is we're looking for, that if they don't have a sensationalized, controversial, conflict-causing story to run, they'll gin one up. They will make it so it seems, I mean, you know, to hear a lot of people, particularly people who buy into mainstream media events and their versions of things, to hear them tell it, there are, you know, Klan rallies every weekend on every corner in every predominantly white neighborhood in town, and it's fucking ridiculous. Personally, I know a lot of people of all walks of life, all strains, all varieties, however you want to look at it. And I honestly, yes, I've run into some genuinely like racist assholes, some genuine pieces of shit. And I hate to break it to you, they weren't just white people. I know racist people of multiple ethnicities, multiple religious beliefs. I know shitty people that cover that entire stripe too, that whole spectrum. It doesn't matter. It's not a particular case of one group is more guilty of it than others. It's a case of one group gets more attention of it than others. And as long as we keep, you know, drinking that Kool-Aid, we keep saying, you know what, yeah, you're right, the world is this horrible, shitty fucking place. And I'm not a rose-colored glasses guy. I'm pretty fucking negative. But I do have hope. I base my personal philosophy on people I interact with on a regular basis. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that are smarter than what they think of us. They don't buy into the hype. They don't buy into this ridiculous narrative that's being pushed. But they also they sit back like, well, what can I do about it? I know my friends are good people, but there's a lot of other people in the world. Yeah, there are. There's a lot of shitty people out there, but they're not as prevalent as people think they are. Because the good people, the decent people, the ones that just want to live their life day to day and want everybody else to be able to live their life day to day, they don't cause a big stink. They don't make a big scene. They don't make a big noise. It's little, you know, just everyday acts of decency, just being decent to each other. The kid that pushes a shopping cart for the old lady out to her car and helps her unload her groceries, not because it's his job or not because he has to, and just because, he's a decent fucking kid. Or you want to go even smaller scales, I don't know. Not everybody goes to grocery stores like Aldi's, but there's stores where you pay a quarter to get your cart, and somebody will just hand you a cart because, hey, it's a quarter. Here, have the cart. Have a good day. Little acts of just being fucking decent to people. And those don't get coverage. Those don't sell. Those don't create headlines. Person acts like a decent human fucking being to, hear the media tell it is a rarefied thing indeed, but it's not. Most people are, they're not bad. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of shitty assholes out there, and it feels like there's more of them than there actually are because they are loud, obnoxious, shitty fucking people, and they draw all that attention to themselves. And unfortunately, the way the system focuses attention on those things because, guy acts decent towards his fucking neighbor, doesn't really, sell papers, as the saying goes. You're not going to get a lot of people, clicking a link to follow to find out, yeah, this guy took his neighbor's garbage out because his neighbor busted his ankles and is in a walking cast, but, it was just a decent thing to do. You're not going to hear about that shit on the news. You're not going to hear about, other than sometimes they'll do a little fluff piece of, oh, look, this little girl's selling lemonade and she's giving all the money to the homeless shelter. They do these little fluff feel-good pieces, but they act like it's such a big deal. Like there's no decent human beings left out here that just are decent because it's the right thing to do, because it's being fucking decent. And it's kind of sad, but if I can leave you with any one thing, we're getting up around the half-hour mark, and I try and keep the solo episodes around that just so you guys don't have to put up with too much of me. But if there's one thing I can leave you with as I wrap this up, it's just remember that there's a lot of decent, average fucking people out there, and they're not, changing the world by any massive dramatic effect. They're not out there doing things that are going to draw all this attention. They're just being decent human beings. If the world was as full of shitty people as the government and the media want you to think it was, we would all be a lot more miserable than we actually are. We would, there's shitty stuff going on in the world. There's the shit going on in the Ukraine. But if the world was as full of shitheads as they want us to think it is, mass shootings would not be newsworthy headlines. They would be the norm. They would be happening all the fucking time. And they do happen a lot. They happen more than they probably should. But conversely, yes, one kid going into a grocery store and shooting the place up and killing 10 people, it's a fucking tragedy. It really is. It's a horrible thing. But conversely, okay, so 10 people got shot in Buffalo over the weekend. Over the same span of time in Chicago, 24 people were shot. At least 4 of them died. I don't know about all the rest of them, but I know 24 people were shot and 4 died. And it didn't even get a fucking headline. You know why I know that? Because I actually signed up for a newsletter that tracks how many people get shot in Chicago every week. Yes, that's an actual fucking thing. It's called Hey Jackass. You should look it up. It's funny. They have categories for the different types of shootings where they talk about like people getting literally shot in the ass, people that get shot in the crotch, people that get winged, people that get killed. They have all these stats. And it's so regular. It's so prevalent. I couldn't tell you the last time there was a weekend where somebody didn't get shot in Chicago. And you don't see any rallies. You don't see any pickets. You don't see any protesting. A huge portion of it is you don't see any reporting. You don't see any reporting because it's not the right kind of violence. It's not the right kind of crime because they can't point to it and say, look, a white kid shot a black kid or a black kid shot a white kid. It's black kids shooting black kids, white kids shooting white kids, Latino kids shooting Latino kids. It's violence on people's own groups, and that doesn't bring the same controversy. It doesn't move the needle. It doesn't push the outrage. So just try and remember that. There's a lot of shit going on in the world. There's a lot of bad shit going on in the world. But the shit we don't hear about, all that quiet, reserved, kind of just gentle day-to-day life, little acts of kindness, little bits of good that we do for each other. And if you really want to make the world a better place, don't try and legislate your beliefs on other people. Don't try and push your way of life on other people. Just be decent. Help the old lady unload her groceries into the trunk of her car. Put her cart back for her. Put your fucking cart back. Oh, God, without derailing myself too far, if you can't walk the extra 10 or 15 feet to put your cart in the cart corral in the fucking parking lot and it's rolling around and I have to risk hitting it with my car because you're a lazy piece of shit, yeah, you're part of the problem. You fail the basic, like, do I belong in a civilized society or not? Check. Walk your lazy ass over, put the cart in the fucking cart corral, you fucking mouth breather. And for now, that's what I had to say.
Thanks for listening to another episode of I Had to Say It. If you liked what you heard, leave a review, give us a follow, give me some feedback. And if you didn't like what you heard, leave a review, give me a follow, give me some feedback. I'll try and fix it. Check us out on all the social media platforms. At I Had to Say It podcast is the trigger for all that stuff, for the search term. And if you want, check out the website, www.ihadtosayitpodcast.com. There's links to people that have been involved with the program, things I've talked about. There are some links available for some merch that we're working on, and there are ways to contact us there as well. And thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.